My name is John Fortune, and today I'm going to read a book about a famous person who came from a humble beginning and went on to become an inspirational hero. Jesse Owens was born in rural Alabama in 1913. When he was young, he started working at 4 a.m. to pick cotton with his family. It was hard work, and the family was very poor. At 9 years old, his family moved to Cleveland, Ohio, to find a better life. In Cleveland, a track coach recognized his ability to run and offered him a position on the track team. In 8th grade, the coach timed him in the 100-yard dash and realized he was just 1 1/2 seconds short of the world record. Although he was fast, he was not a skilled runner and often lost in real competitions. He decided he needed to learn something from every race, even the ones he lost. At Ohio State College, in one day, he broke 3 world records in running, hurdles, and long jump. He went on to the 1936 Olympics in Berlin, Germany, where he faced his hardest test. The German leader was Adolf Hitler, and he believed white German men were superior to all other people, especially black men. Jesse Owens showed him and the world that black men can also win in the Olympics. He won gold medals in every race he was in. Let's learn more about Jesse Owens and his determination to be the best he could be. This book is from the Ordinary People Change the World series. It is titled, I Am Jesse Owens, and it is written by Brad Metzler and illustrated by Christopher Iliopoulos. I am Jesse Owens. I'm from a big family, the youngest of 10 kids, in a small town called Oakville, Alabama. Here he is. I can tell he was born special. My real name wasn't Jesse. It was James Cleveland Owens, though everyone called me by my initials, JC. I was skinny as a kid and sick a lot. At 5 years old, I noticed a bump on my chest. That doesn't look good. We lived really far from doctors, and even if we were close, we couldn't afford one. My mother was one of the strongest and most determined people I know. I'm going to take off this bump now, Jesse. Will it hurt? I remember seeing the tears in my dad's eyes. It was one of the hardest moments of my life, but I got through it. I always said you were born special, my special boy. The next day, I was sitting up and eating. The day after that, I was walking. And the following day, I was back working in the fields. When I was a boy, my family farmed cotton. My grandparents had been enslaved. On those farms, life was hard. Since we were black, our only options were tough, low-paying jobs with no way to advance. Dad, it's 4 a.m. Doesn't matter. Time to work. We were so poor, our house didn't have a proper roof or beds. This was where I slept, in a potato sack on the floor. We couldn't even afford clothes. One day, a landowner's son told me he dreamed of going to something called college. He said it was a special school where you could be anything you want to be. I told my family, I want to go to college too. College? That's never happening. Thankfully, I was able to use my time in the fields for something amazing, talking with my dad. He'd give me great advice like, no matter how much other people have, never envy them. Besides family, my father cared about 3 things in life: God, cotton, and running. Sunday afternoons, he loved to set up a race. On your mark, get set. Dad ran like no one else, like a train blurring when he sped past. He was the fastest in our county. I wanted to be just like him. Even as a boy, I loved running. You can do it all by yourself, It didn't require money, just your own strength and determination. I was fast, too. When we played tag, no one could catch me. Get him! You get him! It's impossible! When I was 9 years old, my family left Alabama. We'd heard stories about a place up north where black people had more options. Where are we going to go, Mama? To a better life. My parents wanted us to get a proper education so we'd have the opportunities they never had. Where did we go? Cleveland, Ohio. It felt like a different world. In school, my southern accent was so thick, some teachers couldn't understand me. What's your name? J.C. Jesse? J.C. Got it. Everybody, meet Jesse Owens. That's really how he got his name. The good news was there were jobs for almost all of us. My mom and sisters cleaned houses while I worked part-time shining shoes and pumping gas. I also loved working at a greenhouse, tending baby oaks. I dreamed one day having my own house with a big oak tree in front. But no matter how hard we worked, money was always tight. We couldn't even afford a Christmas tree. My dad would get a free one after hauling away all the unsold trees. Every year, he worked hard on the holiday and we'd celebrate Christmas a day late. There were no ornaments, just 3 pieces of Mom's jewelry and our tattered clothing. Those socks make it look good. I had no idea it was all about to change. It's amazing how one person can affect your life. This is my junior high school teacher. Hi, I'm Coach Charles Riley, Jesse Owens. Nice to meet you, Jesse. You're clearly one of the fastest kids in school. If you join the track team, I think you can be faster. You'll have to work hard, though. I was never afraid of working hard. Because of my after-school jobs, I could only train in the mornings. Every day, we'd meet as the sun was coming up. Knees up, heads up, watch your form. Coach would be by my side as I ran in the muddy track. Come on, you're faster than that. And in the gymnasium, another lap. Coach, I think I can. You can. Build that stamina. Even while I ran in place, pulling against the harness, it'll build strength. Keep working on that form. When I was 15, Coach Riley set up a 100-yard dash on the sidewalk. On your mark, get set. I ran it in 11 seconds, only about a second and a half shy of what was then the world record. No 8th grader can run that fast. The next day, he made me do it again, just to be sure. 11 seconds. This kid's one of the fastest on the planet. It was time for my first official race. On your mark, get set. I sprinted to an early lead. I thought I would win for sure. My lead didn't last long. By the time the race was finished, I came in 4th. I was so focused on my competitors that day and so upset. But Coach Riley encouraged me. You need to stop worrying about the other runners. Focus on yourself. Show them what they can't see yet, your determination. He was the first white man I really ever knew. He taught me how to be a better runner, and at the time when so many treated black people differently, we treated each other equally and taught each other how to be better men. Soon after, I was in the 220-yard dash. Like before, I had an early lead. This time, though, when I got tired, I realized I had more in me. I dug deep, I pushed harder, and they still passed me. It wasn't enough. I lost again. I was so frustrated. I kept running even after the race was done. To my surprise, Coach Riley was smiling. Congratulations. What for? I lost. No, you didn't. Even when the race was over, you didn't focus on the other runners. You kept going. That's a win. You overcame your greatest opponent. I knew what he meant. My greatest opponent was me. By age 18, I was one of the country's best sprinters and long jumpers. But in the semifinal round to make it to the Olympics, "You got this, Jesse," I lost again. I wasn't ready yet. Here's the thing about losing. It always teaches you something. That day, I saw the best runners up close. They were human beings, just like me. That meant they could be beaten. Next time we raced, I'd make sure the crowd was cheering for me. On June 17th, 1933, I ran the 100-yard dash in 9.4 seconds, tying the world record. From there, I finally made it to college, a place called Ohio State. "We'd like to make you the team captain, Jesse." They'd never had a black captain of the varsity team before. That didn't mean I was suddenly treated fairly, though. Black students weren't allowed to live in the best dorms. That's not fair. Or go to most nearby restaurants or movie theaters. Whites only. Every day, my running gave me an opportunity, but it didn't give me equality. My finest day was here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Earlier in the week, I'd injured myself. "Jesse, I'm sorry, I can't let you run. But coach, if you hurt yourself, it could ruin your chance at the Olympics and all of your tomorrows." I looked at him and said something I'd never said before. When you come from where I do, you don't really believe in tomorrows. Coach knew I deserved my chance. "One race, Jesse. Then let's see how you feel." I was in so much pain, they had to help me into my uniform. But as any sprinter knows, the 100-yard dash has only a few key seconds. The first is when you come out of the starting blocks. The next is when you take those first strides into position. But the most important is the last part of the race, when you see what you're made of. That day, in a single hour, I broke 3 world records and tied another in running, the low hurdles, and the long jump. The Scarlet Comet, the Buckeye Bullet, the world's fastest man. From there, I became one of the most famous runners in the country, but my hardest challenge was still ahead. Back then, in Germany, there were people known as Nazis who didn't like black people, Jewish people, or other groups different from them. The Nazis were led by a terrible man named Adolf Hitler, who believed that white Germans were better than everyone else. In 1936, his plan was to use the Olympics to prove it. "I want the world to see we are not just better, we are stronger. The black and the Jewish athletes are inferior. They are nothing compared to our blonde and blue-eyed supermen." Most people in our track and field team were like me, poor black Southerners. Hitler hated us because of our skin color. The German journalists wouldn't even use our name. They thought their win was guaranteed. The world will see how weak they are. They were wrong. Jesse Owens wins the gold. He just tied the world record. The 100-meter dash was the most prestigious track and field event, and I, a black man, won it in front of 100,000 white Germans. I thought the crowd would boo me, but instead of cheering Hitler's name, they cheered mine, Jesse Owens. It was incredible. Of course, there was one person who wasn't cheering. Hitler refused to shake my hand like he did with the other athletes. Lucky for me, not everyone followed his example. This is the best German long jumper, Karl Ludwig, Lutz Long. Hitler called him a perfect example of Nazi superiority. Lutz should have been my rival. "Don't worry, Lutz, a black man will never win." He should have been my enemy. Yet, when I jumped further than anyone, "Another gold, Jesse Owens wins a new Olympic record," Lutz put his hand on my shoulder and congratulated me. I put my arm around him. We both knew Hitler was watching. We knew the crowd was watching. That was the point. When everyone woo-hoo, sports is about more than ability. It's about more than winning and losing. At its best, it's about character. In my life, people thought less of me because of where I was born. They counted me out because of the color of my skin. But others pushed me to improve, helping me find my potential. That's when I took off. One day, you'll have your own races to run, your own hurdles to leap. Just remember, it's not about how fast you go. What matters is that you don't stop when it gets hard. Dig deep, push yourself, and show what you've got inside. When you do, you'll always be a winner. In the 1936 Olympics, Jesse Owens competed in 4 events: the 100 meter, the 200 meter, the long jump, and the 4x100 relay. He won gold medals in all 4. To this day, his accomplishment in Michigan, breaking 3 world records in an hour, has never been done again. Although he fought racism in Berlin, he sadly wasn't completely welcomed at home. When he got back to America, a ticker tape parade was held in his honor. But he was forced to ride the freight elevator to the reception at the Waldorf Astoria. Today in Berlin, Germany, there's a Jesse Owens Boulevard and even a school named after him. Can we say it now? Say it. On your mark, get set, go. Life is not a sprint. It's a marathon, a long-distance race that goes over hills and through valleys. Here's the real secret. Don't focus on the finish line or what the other runners are doing. Focus on doing right. Focus on pushing hard. Focus on your personal best. That's where you see what you are made of. Along your path, it will always be easy to find competitors. It's better to find teammates. I am Jesse Owens. In the race of life, I defy expectations. Jesse Owens was born at a time in our country where people were segregated by the color of their skin. It took a lot of courage and determination by people like Jesse to overcome this stereotype and be the very best they could be. Do you ever have times when you feel like you can't do something? Maybe it's riding a bicycle, or solving a Rubik's Cube, or even finishing a 500-piece puzzle. It may seem easier to give up, but the best feeling is when you actually succeed at doing it. This is the feeling of success, and there is no greater feeling. This is how Jesse Owens felt after the 1936 Olympics. Very few people succeed when they first try something. It takes persistence and determination, and with enough of both, eventually you will achieve your goal. I'm John Fortune. I want to thank you for watching me on Lunenburg Storytime. See you next time.
My name's Donna Fortune, and today I'm going to read you a book about an ordinary person who changed the world. The title of the book is I Am Marie Curie, written by Brad Meltzer and illustrated by Christopher Eliopoulos. I love technology, science, and all things that move. I'm a very curious person, and I enjoy learning about the world, its animals, cultures, and ordinary people like you and me who've done some pretty awesome things. I chose this book because, like so many other people, I think Marie Curie was an extraordinary person whose ideas and discoveries continue to be some of the most powerful in the history of science. I am Marie Curie. When I was 4 years old in Poland, this was one of my favorite treasures. My dad's glass cabinet, filled with scientific instruments. I used to stare at it, wondering about each item. This is a physics apparatus, he said. Physics apparatus. I didn't know what the words meant, but I'd never forget them. As a science teacher, my father needed these tools, but the Russian government soon shut down laboratory classes in our schools. They didn't want Polish kids to learn about science. They thought education would be dangerous and that it would make us powerful. They were right. I really liked learning. One day, when my older sister was struggling to read, I picked up her book and read the first sentence easily. From the looks on everyone's faces, I thought I made a mistake. How'd you do that? You're only 4 years old. I don't know. Did I do something wrong? No, it was amazing. Back then, men didn't think girls could be good students, and they certainly didn't think we could be scientists. So, boys were always trying to challenge me. Okay, I'm going to read you this poem. If you're so smart, you should be able to write the whole thing from memory. Are you ready? I guess so. Think she'll be able to do it? Not a chance. How's this? I don't believe it. She didn't miss a word. From the very start, there was one person who always believed in me, my dad. When my mom got sick, he took care of us kids. Since he was a teacher, even if we were just taking a walk, he'd give us a new scientific lesson. See that sunset, Anya? It looks like the sun's moving, but it's really the earth that's spinning. Manya was my nickname. Back then, we didn't have phones, TVs, computers, or cell phones. So our Saturday nights were spent with Dad sharing one of the most powerful things of all, books. He'd read us classics like David Copperfield and one of my favorites, A Tale of Two Cities. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. Growing up, life was hard. My mom and one of my sisters passed away. My father wasn't allowed to teach the subject he loved. We didn't have much money. To escape the hard times, I would read. Books were a place where I could enter another world, draw, and dance. One night I danced so long I completely wore out my shoes. At 15, I graduated from high school early. I won the gold medal for being the first in my class. By 16, I knew I wanted to make an impact in this world, and I even knew how. I want to be a scientist. Where I lived, the university didn't accept women. I'm sorry, no girls allowed. That's not fair. They wouldn't let me in, but I had my own ideas. Lucky for me, someone started a secret college where they taught women subjects that no one else would teach us. It was called the Flying University. That's the coolest name, right? The college didn't really fly, but with more than 1,000 women enrolled, it was magical and powerful. This is called the periodic table. It lists every element we know, like hydrogen, oxygen, and others. Eventually, my sister, Bronya, and I made a plan. We would save enough money to go to the Sorbonne in France, one of the most famous universities in the world. But we didn't have enough money for both of us. You go first and then I'll follow. You sure you'll be okay? Don't worry, I'll never stop learning. Every day, I was so determined to be a scientist. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. and read books in 3 different languages on physics and anatomy. Then I'd do the math problems my dad would send me to solve. Dad, please send more math problems. By the time I was 18, I was doing my own experiments and drawing my own conclusions. I also learned one of the most valuable lessons of all. You should never accept anything as it is. Life, like science, can always be made better. I do chemistry and physics experiments here. Watch this. Poof. Poof. This is the one. This will work. Poof. This is the first laboratory I ever had access to. It was run by my cousin. Watch this experiment. Poof. Oh. Ta-da! I had lots of accidents and failures. Making change is never easy. It takes hard work. Finally, when I was 23, my dream came true. I became a student at the Sorbonne. I would dedicate my life to science. You sure know what you're getting into? Absolutely. I felt like a new person with new power. When I got there, I even signed the registration book differently. Call me by my new name, Marie. Like I said, making change isn't easy. I had to climb 6 flights of stairs to get to my room. I had a tiny stove, and there wasn't much to eat. In the winter, it was so cold that water would freeze in the basin. I'd have to sleep under all my clothes. I know it sounds hard, but it was worth it to be able to study what I wanted. These were some of the best years of my life. The Sorbonne School of Science had 2,000 students. Only 23 were women, and only 2 of us were studying science. I was so nervous during my first exam, I could barely read it. But when the professor announced our scores, Marie Curie is first in her class. In 1893, I got my degree in physics. A year later, I got a second degree in mathematics. Soon after, I got married to a scientist, of course. This is my husband, Pierre. When we had a daughter, people thought I would spend less time in the lab. But Pierre worked hard to be sure we were equal partners. My dad helped too, by babysitting. Back then, people thought that men were supposed to get jobs, and women were supposed to stay home. Again, I had my own ideas. The only thing you're supposed to do is chase what you love. This was my next lab, a crowded, damp storeroom. I started studying a chemical element called uranium. According to my instruments, it's giving off certain rays. These rays are filled with energy that we can study and use. I made up a new term for it, radioactivity. My husband found my research so exciting, he put aside his own work to join me. Together, we discovered 2 brand new elements, polonium and radium. Who's that woman? What does she know about science? She knows a lot. Scientists believed that atoms behaved in a certain way. But guess what? I had other ideas. You better believe it. Those ideas, based on my research, changed the way the world looked at atoms and radioactivity. In 1903, I was nominated along with my husband and another scientist named Henry Becquerel for the Nobel Prize in Physics, one of the most prestigious awards in science. I was the first woman to win a Nobel Prize. At first, they incorrectly said it was just the 2 men who did all the work. But Pierre wouldn't accept the prize until they told the truth and gave me credit. Because I was a woman, though, they wouldn't let me address the audience. Eventually, I became the first woman professor at the Sorbonne. Then my lab became the top place in the world for studying radium and measuring radioactivity. We had a staff of 22, plus 20 additional women scientists as volunteers. From there, I won a second Nobel Prize by myself, this time in chemistry. I was the first person to ever receive Nobel Prizes in 2 fields. She's an inspiration. Then I invented mobile X-ray units to help treat soldiers during World War I. This is my daughter Irene, who also wanted to be a scientist. She used to come with me. She's an inspiration. In the United States, I even got invited to the White House, where President Harding presented me with 1 gram of radium in a locked box. It was worth more than $100,000. a gift from the women in America who'd collected money so I could continue my groundbreaking work. She's such an inspiration. In my life, I was told that only boys could be educated. Only boys should study science, and only boys would win awards. I had other ideas. Don't let anyone limit what you can achieve. It's easy to follow the crowd and do what's been done before. But to forge your own path, you have to be daring. You have to risk failure. That's how you learn. Education is like a magic key. It unlocks knowledge. And with that knowledge, you have power. Today, Marie Curie's findings on radiation are an important part of how doctors treat people with cancer. After she won her second Nobel Prize, no other woman won again for 24 years, until her daughter Irene won it. In 1995, they moved her remains to the French Pantheon, the first woman recognized there for her accomplishments. But there's a sign there that still says, to the great men from a grateful country. Did you know her face is on French money? The 500-franc note. Today there are many women scientists, and there can be even more. Join us. Your experiments and ideas can help change the world. Science taught me to ask questions, experiment, fail, and try again. And then try some more. You won't always find the answers you expect, and that's okay. You will find new information, new questions, new possibilities. I am Marie Curie. I know the power of discovery. Other American scientists that you might know names of: Elizabeth Blackburn was a biologist. Sally Ride was an astronaut. Mae Jemison, an astronaut. Grace Hopper was a computer scientist in a book that I've read before. Dorothy Hodgkin, a chemist. Katherine Johnson, a mathematician. And Lissy Meitner, a physicist. One really nice quote from Marie Curie: "Nothing in life is to be feared. It's only to be understood." I really like that quote. What a great book about an ordinary person who changed the world, Marie Curie. How wonderful it was for her family to support her learning in a time when girls were not expected to become scientists, and in some places, not allowed to learn at all. That'd be really hard for me. It's been my pleasure to share this book about Marie Curie and her amazing life with you today. Hope to see you all again on Lunenburg Storytime. Thanks for watching.